I finally did it. You guys told me in comments, emails, everywhere, again and again and again and again, that once I buy a Trangia alcohol burner, I will never go back to the Pathfinder option, because you guys know how much I like this. So I forked out the money, I bought this myself. I will leave links in the description box down below to these products. You don't have to buy what I link to. You can buy whatever you want. As long as you use my link to get to the website, I still get credit for everything you buy. I just like leaving links to the products because I always forget to mention something. There's always something that you guys want to know that I forget to tell you. And you can use those links to find the answers, because Amazon usually is really good at having the answer either in the description, or there's the reviews, or the question, the Q&A portion. And so I like linking to Amazon, and it does help me afford to buy things like this so that I can do a lot more viewer request videos. I'm not buying stuff that I don't need out of my own pocket per se. But with that being said, let's talk about the burners themselves. So let's start from the top and we'll work our way down. So starting with the simmer rings, the simmer ring on the Pathfinder friction fits on. This is a knockoff. It's a no-name knockoff. I got it with a full cooking pot set that came in a battle box. This one does not friction fit on, and the Trangia does friction fit on, so they're not going to fall off on the Pathfinder or the Trangia, but it will fall off and get lost on the knockoff. The simmer ring on the Pathfinder has a little handle, which I really like. You'll see in my test video me kind of over exaggerate how important this handle is in the video. You'll also see this part here where the simmer, the part that swivels out so that you can adjust the flame, it doesn't friction fit to the lid, and so there's this gap. And in my earlier videos where I compared the Pathfinder to a homemade alcohol burner, I talked about how flames will shoot out of there, and nobody believed me. And so in my test videos, you're going to see me use this on the Trangia, and you're going to see flames shooting out of here. So just pay attention to that. Again, I'm over exaggerating in the videos because I want you to see what I'm talking about, but there's workarounds around all of this. The snuff ring, or the simmer ring on the knockoff, has a handle, which I really like. It has a friction closure so that the portion that swivels out for the simmering to adjust the flame clamps shut and keeps a tight seal, so that when you go to put out the flame on the stove, it does suffocate it really well. And yeah, it's really good snuff ring or simmer ring. The Trangia does not have a handle, but it does have the friction closure, and it does have the simmer. You can adjust the flame by opening or closing this. You will see in the video how much I enjoy the handle, especially when it comes to getting these pot stands that I made off. We'll get to the pot stands in a second, but I wish the simmer ring had a handle. My favorite simmer ring is from the knockoff, simply because of the handle. These two, the Trangia and the knockoff, are almost identical. The only difference is this one has a handle, and that's why I like it better. When it comes to the lids, none of these leak fuel. I tipped all of them upside down, full of fuel. None of them leaked. The difference is with the Pathfinder, the O-ring sometimes falls out. It fell out this time. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. When it was new, it never fell out. And over time, it's shrunk, it's probably dried out. And so it does fall out a couple times now. And so that is something to keep in mind. It never used to, but it does now. The knockoff seals, I tipped it upside down. It doesn't leak. This O-ring always falls out. It is always resting on top of the burner. It's never inside the lid unless I put it in the lid. And again, when I first got it, the first few times I used it, it was in there really well, but over time it falls out. And this, being that it is new, of course, it does not fall out. It stays in there really well. Nothing leaks out of it. Nothing leaks out of any of these, like I said, but this one stays in there. I don't know if it's because it's new or because it's a better design. I'll only know once I use it a bunch, so stay tuned for that. The burners themselves, this is where I'm going to mention it. I don't know how it affects performance, but the holes, the knockoff has a large hole, small hole, large hole, small hole, and it alternates between a larger hole and a smaller hole. The Trangia has all the same size hole, and they're all the same size as the large hole in the knockoff. And the Pathfinder has even larger holes yet. So it has the biggest holes out of all of them, and there's fewer of them. Again, I don't know how that affects performance. I don't know if one is more significant than the other, but it's just an observation, and I thought I'd mention it because I like to give thorough reviews. You can see that the Pathfinder is also twice as tall. It's twice as big as these ones. These two are identical. They're the exact same size. The only difference is the bottom has a different design on it, but they are the exact same size. Pathfinder is twice as tall. Yeah, so it holds twice as much fuel. There's really no other advantage to having it that big. When it comes to the pot stand, the Pathfinder has a pot stand that comes with it, and it nests together. It's all one unit. And as you can see, it stays on there really well. You don't have to worry about it falling off as you're cooking or boiling water or doing whatever. It stays on there really well. So I like that. I like how this is all one enclosed thing. I don't have to worry about carrying a pot stand. I don't have to worry about bringing anything extra. I like how big it is because I can put a whole weekend's worth of fuel in here, and I don't have to carry a separate bottle. Everything I need is right here. When it comes to the knockoff and the Trangia, it holds a lot of fuel. If I was doing an overnighter, it will be enough. I know because of the knockoff one, they're the exact same size. So an overnighter, plenty of fuel. A whole weekend, I would have to carry this and another bottle of fuel. And so that's kind of annoying, having to worry about a bottle of fuel leaking and everything. Also, none of these two don't come with a pot stand. So I made a pot stand out of chicken wire. These are from my original video where I compared the Pathfinder to a homemade alcohol stove. I've used these a lot. I keep using them because I'm worried about the welds or whatever's holding this chicken wire together melting or coming apart, and it just never has. And so I'm keeping these. One of them is the exact same size as the Pathfinder. Well, it's not the same size, but it's the same height. It's going to keep it away from the flame the same amount. And then this one's a little bit taller because my homemade alcohol stove is taller, and so I needed to make it a ½ inch taller to accommodate for that. When I did my testing, I used the same height on the Trangia and the Pathfinder because I figured that's the one you guys care about the most, because I don't think I'm going to be able to link to this exact one because it is a no name. It has no markings or anything on it. So these two are going to be the same distance away from the pot. I use nesting cups. I use Pathfinder nesting cups in my testing because they are identical. I have 3 Pathfinder cups. They are exactly the same, and so that is what I use because I wanted to keep everything as equal as possible. I didn't want anything swaying my opinion. I even went out and bought this little measuring cup. It has ounces and milliliters on the same side. And so the first test that I ran, I used the measuring cup and I measured out ½ ounce of fuel, and I put a ½ ounce of fuel in each burner, and I just ran it until it died. And so as you can see, I'm going to fast forward the footage. If you want to watch the entire video, I'm going to link those in the description box down below. I'm not going to make them public. The only way you're going to be able to find them is through the description box. But if you want to sit and watch the entire video, there's 2 tests that I did, and I will leave both of those links in the description box. It's long and boring. I had to sit through it. I don't know if you're going to want to, but I'm going to leave them available to you. So the knockoff ran for 6 minutes and 21 seconds. The Trangia ran for 5 minutes and 33 seconds, so I got almost a minute more out of the knockoff. And the Pathfinder ran for 17 minutes and 38 seconds, so 12 minutes longer than the Trangia. Now the flame on the Trangia was much higher. It was a much larger flame. The Pathfinder was a very small flame. The knockoff actually had a blue flame. It had a pretty medium-sized flame, and it was blue and hot. And so depending on which one you care about, the burn time is what I care about, because a stove has to do 4 things for me. Number 1, it has to cook my food. Number 2, it has to boil my water. Number 3, I have to be able to use it as an emergency heat source. And number 4 is I need to be able to use it as an emergency fire starter. And so that's why I like alcohol burners, because when it comes to keeping you warm, you can take a Mylar blanket, wrap up around it, and the heat will be amplified by the Mylar, and it will warm you up extremely quick. And you can use it as an emergency fire starter. You can either use it as a lighter and light things on fire, or you can take the alcohol out and dump it over something else and light that on fire. So it's kind of a two-way fire starter, which I really like. But yeah, so when it comes to keeping me warm and having only a ½ ounce of fuel left, the Pathfinder is going to keep me warm for longer. The Trangia will probably heat me out. It'll probably be way too hot for me to handle, but the Pathfinder will keep me warmer longer on a ½ ounce. The next thing I did is I ran a boil test. And so when it comes to boiling water, I used the Pathfinder cups, and I put 16 ounces of water in there, no lid, no nothing. I wanted to make sure that I knew exactly when it stopped boiling. And so 16 ounces of water, 2 ounces of fuel, and I just lit them up, timed them out. And you can see that the knockoff boiled the water in 7 minutes and 4 seconds. The Trangia boiled it in 6 minutes and 52 seconds, which is why I think most people enjoy the Trangia. I think that's the main selling point of the Trangia, is that it boils extremely quick. You're not wasting any time. And that is very appealing in some situations. There are some situations where you have to sit down, quick eat a fast meal and keep moving on. And so it is appealing. I do like that it does boil so much faster, because the Pathfinder, it took the Pathfinder 17 minutes and 38 seconds, which is 12 minutes longer, almost 3 times longer. Or no, it boiled in 15 minutes and 13 seconds, my bad. And so again, it's still almost, it's over double. Okay, it took almost over twice as long to boil with the Pathfinder. And so I can see where that could be an issue for a lot of people. The other test that I ran when it came to these is, like I said, I put 2 ounces of fuel into each one. You'll also see that when the one goes out, I mess around with the handle, the Trangia snuff ring. You can see me play around with that. I use the Pathfinder snuff ring to get the pot stand off. And you can see the flames shooting out of the Pathfinder snuff ring. So when that was all said and done, I pulled out my measuring cup and I poured back in what I could get out. It's important that you understand it's what I could get out. The Pathfinder is twice as big, so I don't know how much is left in the wicking material. Maybe the Trangia is twice as absorbent than what the Pathfinder uses, so it's the same. I have no idea. I just calculated based on what I got back out of the stove, or the burner, I mean. And what I got out of the knockoff was just a little bit less than 1 ounce. It was a little bit. The Trangia was about 3/4 of an ounce, and then the Pathfinder was like pretty much right at 1 ounce. And so, yes, it took longer, but at a ½ ounce, I'm getting a lot more heat out of it, and when it's all done boiling, I'm getting more alcohol back out of it than I am with the Trangia. So the only real benefit I personally see in the Trangia is the boil time. It can boil your water extremely fast, and so you can boil it to discontaminate it so that you can drink it, make it potable water. You can make your food a lot faster because it is so much hotter, and so it's faster. And if that's the one and only thing you're focused on, this is your one and only option. This is going to do it faster than this. But again, the advantages of the Pathfinder, so again, it has a cook food, boil water, use it as an emergency heat source, and an emergency fire starter. When it comes to an emergency fire starter, I think the Pathfinder has the advantages because it has twice as much fuel. It has twice as much alcohol. So even if I burn half of it, I still have a whole Trangia worth of fire starting, which is fire starting. The other thing is heat source. If I have a ½ ounce left, okay, I'm going to get 17.5 minutes out of the Pathfinder and only 5.5 out of the Trangia. Now, yes, it's going to be hotter. It's going to make it a lot hotter, but I'm going to have a lot more time with the Pathfinder. The other thing is boil water and cook food. The Pathfinder comes with a stand that's very robust. It's going to last. It's going to maintain. The Trangia does not come with a stand. I'm using this chicken coop wire, and if this breaks, if it bends, if this is messed up in any way, I can no longer cook or boil water. I have to makeshift something else. I have to use tent pegs. I have to use sticks. I have to makeshift something where this is a guarantee. I know this is going to work every single time. And so I like that guarantee of being able to cook and boil water, which, yes, you get it with the Trangia, but you're going to have to makeshift something. You're going to have to utilize other tools, other techniques to get it to work. This is fast, easy, always the same. And so I still like the Pathfinder. I know you're all shocked. You're like, what? How can you like the Pathfinder? The other thing that I want to talk about is weight. The weight of the Pathfinder is 8.3 ounces with the stand. The Trangia is 4.1 ounces with the stand. That's the same height as the Pathfinder. And then the knockoff is 3.6 ounces. So the knockoff is less weight, meaning it's thinner material, or maybe the wicking material on the inside isn't as dense. I don't know what's making that change, but this is twice as big, twice as heavy, holds twice as much. And for me, my perfect setup is how I've been carrying this. So I carry the grill top, the burner, I use the Pathfinder lid, but then I use the knockoff snuffer ring. Now this doesn't friction fit on, it falls off sometimes, but it gives me all the same capabilities. I have the handle, I have the friction fit closure, I have the simmer capabilities, and this is my setup. It has been for a long time. Every time I use an alcohol stove, this is the one I use. And moving forward, it's probably going to continue to be the one that I use because of all the reasons I mentioned. But I want to know which one you would use. Get in that comment section. Let me know which one of these you would use. If you want to look at the tests in their entirety, if you want to see them not sped up, I'll leave that in the description box down below. Well, it's along with the links to all these things. I have a whole bunch of links in the description box. Check those out, and I can't wait to see you on my next video.